890 square miles of Britain's wildest, most rugged landscape. Mountains, rivers, forests, valleys, and some of the deepest, darkest water in the country. Every year, 18 million people pour in to swim its lakes and climb its peaks. But underneath all that postcard scenery hides some of the strangest and most extreme geography in all of England. Today we're counting down 20 insane geography facts about the Lake District that I guarantee you didn't know. Fact 1. It's called the Lake District, but technically it only has one lake. This trips people up every single time. There are 16 major bodies of water up here, but only one of them is actually called a lake by name. That's Bassenthwaite Lake. The rest are waters, meres, and tarns. England's most famous lake district technically owns a single true lake. Fact 2. The biggest lake isn't the deepest. Everyone pictures Windermere as the crown jewel, and it is the largest lake in England, stretching 10.5 miles end to end. But the deepest is Ullstwater, a brutally dramatic slab of water buried in the Western Fells. It plunges to around 74 meters, 243 feet of cold, dark, glacial water, surrounded by enormous walls of crumbling scree. Fact 3. The highest mountain in England lives here. Scafell Pike tops out at 978 meters, just over 3,200 feet. But here's the crazy part. Scafell Pike is only the first of three. The three highest mountains in England, Scafell Pike, Scafell, and Helvellyn, all sit inside this one small national park. You can tick off the entire top three in a single weekend. Fact 4. Every one of these lakes is a melted glacier. The valley floors, the Great Ribbon Lakes, the U-shaped valleys, they were all carved out by vast rivers of ice during the last ice age. As the glaciers ground downhill, they scraped out huge, deep basins. When the ice finally melted, the water simply filled in the holes they left behind. You're looking at the footprints of ancient ice. Fact 5. This is the wettest inhabited place in England. The little village of Seathwaite, tucked away in Borrowdale, is officially the wettest inhabited spot in the country, soaking up around 3,300 millimeters of rain every single year. That's more than 3 times the national average. And just a short way up the valley, the rain gets even heavier. Fact 6. It's a World Heritage Site. In 2017, the Lake District was added to the UNESCO World Heritage List. And it didn't just qualify for its pretty views. It was recognized for the extraordinary way that glaciers, farming, and industry have shaped this landscape over thousands of years. It's one of only a handful of places on Earth judged to be a complete, living cultural landscape. Fact 7. There are hundreds of tiny lakes hiding in the mountains. Scattered across the fells are literally hundreds of little mountain pools called tarns. Some are famous, like Red Tarn High on Helvellyn, but others are so remote and so small that they don't even have names. Every one is a tiny glacial lake, and together they massively outnumber the big ones you see on the map. Fact 8. One of the most famous poems in English history was inspired by a Lake District shoreline. William Wordsworth wrote, "I wandered lonely as a cloud, better known as daffodils, after walking along the shores of Ullstwater in 1802 and seeing a host of golden daffodils by the water's edge." That one walk became one of the most quoted poems in the English language. Fact 9. Some of the steepest roads in England are up here. The Harnott and Rhinos passes thread across the Western Mountains, and their gradients climb to around 30% in places. That's a 1 in 3 slope. In winter, these roads routinely close, and in summer they test every clutch and gearbox that dares to try them. Fact 10. England's oldest topiary garden is hiding in the valleys. At Leven's Hall sits the world's oldest topiary garden, laid out back in the 1690s. Huge sculpted yew trees have been clipped into bizarre and wonderful shapes for over 300 years, making it the oldest continuously clipped topiary garden on the planet. Fact 11. The pencil was born here. In the 16th century, a huge deposit of graphite was discovered high in the Borrowdale Fells. Locals realized the soft black mineral was perfect for marking sheep and writing. Keswick became the world center of pencil making, and today the town still celebrates its pencil heritage. The Lake District basically helped invent how the whole world writes. Fact 12. There's still working mines buried in the mountains. Honester Slate Mine sits high on a mountain pass and has been hacked into the rock for centuries. Miners have been pulling slate out of this mountain since the 1700s. Today, visitors can actually walk inside the mountain and see the vast caverns where generations of men worked in the dark. Fact 13. England's deepest lake is officially the country's favorite view. Wastewater isn't just deep, it's stunning. In 2007, it was voted Britain's favorite view, beating out some of the most famous scenery in the country. The dark water, the soaring screes, and the mountains reflected in the stillness make it a landscape that stops people dead in their tracks. Fact 14. You can walk along a knife edge. Helvellyn is the third highest peak in England, but it's not the height that makes it famous. It's the approach. Striding Edge is a razor-thin ridge that drops away sharply on both sides, and walking along, it is one of the most famous scrambles in the country. For many, it's the ultimate Lake District challenge. Fact 15. The lakes are bigger than they look. Windermere holds around 314 million cubic meters of water. That's enough to fill well over 100,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And at its deepest point, it's over 60 meters down. There's far more going on beneath the surface than anyone on the shore ever realizes. Fact 16. Copper built this landscape. The Lake District was once one of the most important metal mining regions in Britain. Coniston was a major copper mining center, and in its heyday, the local mines employed hundreds of men. The scars of that industry are still visible across the fells, a reminder that this wild landscape was once an industrial powerhouse. Fact 17. The islands and the lakes are a mystery. Windermere alone contains around 18 islands, and the larger lakes are dotted with dozens more. Some are covered in ancient woodland, others were used for grazing, and a few have strange stories attached. In medieval times, some of these islands were fortified and even used as hideouts, turning the lakes into natural moats. Fact 18. The Lake District catches the weather before anyone else. The hills rise so abruptly from the coast, they act like a wall, wringing moisture out of every cloud that blows in from the Irish Sea. That's why the western lakes are so wet and green, while the eastern valleys can be dramatically drier. In a single day, you can drive from rain into sunshine without crossing a town. Fact 19. It's Britain's busiest national park. Around 18 million people visit every year, making it by far the most visited national park in the country. That's more visitors than the entire population of the Netherlands. Yet despite that enormous crowd, it's still possible to find a quiet tarn where you'll see nobody at all for hours. Fact 20. The landscape is still changing under our feet. This isn't a frozen postcard. Landslides regularly reshape the steep fells, scree tumbles constantly down the slopes, and the valleys keep evolving. The same forces that carved the lakes 10,000 years ago are still at work today. The Lake District you see tomorrow won't be exactly the one you see today. And that's the wildest fact of all. So there you have it. 20 insane facts about one of the most beautiful and extreme corners of Britain. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe for more incredible geography. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.